What's up, Space Pirates? This is your Admiral, the obviously awesome Dr. Disaster, and this week I may have reached the first level of nirvana as my schadenfreude fed me non-stop amusement, watching all the normies and non-gamers trying to come to terms with the awful writing of The Last of Us 2.
It is awful. It is disgusting.
The Rotten Tomatoes score for the second season of the TV show has sunk to a new low, crashing down below 50%, hitting 49%, while the Metacritic score has dropped like a rock. It is now sitting at a 4.1 out of 10. Right before Joel died last week, it was sitting at a 5.9, which was already bad enough, but they're in free fall, and this article has been making the rounds trying to cope with the fact that people have clearly turned on the show in the same way that gamers turned on the game for exactly the same reasons. These people just can't handle the fact that folks are bluntly explaining how much the story is a turd on these review aggregators.
Wow, that sucked!
The crash out has been glorious to behold in the media, but even worse than that is that after the first episode of the second season, the journalists were shilling super hard for this show, bragging about how the viewership's premiere was up 13% over the first season's premiere, which is an altogether unimpressive accomplishment considering the fact that it was a brand new show in the prior year, so of course it would see a bump in views year over year, but in the past few weeks since that first episode, there has been complete silence on the subject of viewership for The Last of Us. The silence is absolutely deafening because you know that if the ratings were good, these weirdo journalists would be rubbing gamers' faces in it, celebrating as these weirdos do. But they've been quiet when it comes to The Last of Us, other than articles like this one to stew in the fact that gamers are dunking on them and their Naughty Dog shilling narratives. But thanks to the website Luminate, which tracks the viewership of TV programs in the US, we have an idea as to how many people are tuning out for this show, no matter how hard the journalists try to guilt people into thinking this thing is good. Actually, they just aren't bringing people back in.
Come back! I'd rather roast an L.
Alright, me hearties, make sure you hit the like button on this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, and also, please consider supporting the channel by becoming a member. The first part of the novel that I've written, a dark fantasy story called The Darkest Heritage, is now available in audiobook format for members only, though it will be available to the general public in a little while. The book itself will be for sale on Amazon soon, so watch out for that as well. But if you want to support someone who's writing stories while simultaneously managing to not hate you the way that Naughty Dog clearly does, then consider supporting this venture by becoming a channel member for as little as $5 per month. Alright though, let's take a look at what appears to be plummeting viewership for The Last of Us. We'll start this off with some context so you can understand just how badly this show is flopping compared to its first season, which is unsurprising considering that the first one was based on the beloved first game, and this new season is based on the unadulterated dog shit of the second game. This article here comes from a couple years ago, right after the first season of The Last of Us had finished, and it explains the trajectory of the viewership for that season. It says, when The Last of Us debuted in January, it trailed House of the Dragon to become the second most watched HBO premiere in over a decade, with 4.7 million viewers. Episode 2 marked HBO's biggest ever increase between a series' first and second episode. With 5.7 million viewers, the show then brought in 6.4 million viewers with episode 3, so you get the idea. The viewership continued to rise, with word of mouth spreading to the normies who hadn't heard of the franchise before it became a TV show, making it soar up to over 8 million viewers by the time the finale rolled around. The premiere of the second season saw them hit 5.3 million viewers according to the numbers released by HBO and disseminated by the media, which I'm dubious about, but whatever. They dropped off quite a bit from the people who knew the second season was going to be dog crap, and now, due to the petulant whining of Ellie in the first episode, they drove people away before the second episode of the season even came around. This right here is the Luminate Top 10 list from the week when the second episode dropped for The Last of Us Season 2. It will be very interesting to see what happened with Episode 3 after Joel died. We might talk about that tomorrow when the next Luminate figures drop, but anyhow, Luminate ranks the top 10 streaming shows in the US based on the number of minutes streamed, and as you can see, The Last of Us did not crack the top 10 during this week, despite the fact that streaming was apparently down because the bottom of the top 10 list is pretty low. That bottom slot goes to the show Bosch Legacy, which had about 279 million minutes watched, which means that The Last of Us saw less than 279 million minutes. At most, they hit about 278 million minutes. It is likely way less than that, but let's just assume best case scenario for The Last of Us. The runtime for the second episode of Season 2 was 56 minutes. If we divide 278 million minutes by 56, we get 4,964,000 views, which is the absolute max that it could have had, and of course is still a drop-off from the 5,300,000 they reported from the first week. But the thing is, not all of the minutes streamed would have been for the latest episode released. Any episode of The Last of Us that anyone streamed would have counted toward the total number of minutes streamed. So, in actuality, even if they had hit 278 million minutes, which I highly doubt, but even if they had, chances are that the viewership for the second episode still dropped like a freaking rock. If I had to make an educated guess, I'll bet you that they hit around 4 million viewers for this second episode. Though it is likely we won't ever know that, because just like Disney+, HBO will hide unfavorable numbers. No, instead of being truthful and forthcoming, they will be content to hide behind crap like this, where the outlet Collider is coping and making it seem like the only reason the second season isn't doing well is because there's a bunch of online trolls and misogynists. They won't even entertain the idea that the reason the Rotten Tomatoes score and Metacritic scores have dropped is because actually people just hate this style of writing. This is like deja vu all over again. They did that same shit to The Last of Us Part 2. They wrote off complaints from gamers saying that they were just bigots, and instead of listening to what gamers had to say, they touted the numbers of copies sold without adding context, that it sold much less than the original game in the series, and that a lot of the sales of that second game were from people who were mega fans of the first game, who rushed out to buy it right away before reviews came in, and they were horrified at what they had bought, but it was too late, they couldn't return it. It says in this article, it's about time to revoke some people's internet privileges. Anybody who targets minorities and women online needs to check themselves anyway. Despite the efforts of certain platforms to prevent review bombing, trolls still seem to be getting away with it. The latest victim is HBO's The Last of Us, which, like the video game it's based on, has been targeted by individuals who seem to have a problem with women being spotlighted. The second season of the show, which premiered less than a month ago, immediately started attracting negativity from a section of the audience. This was reflected in its fast declining audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, but trolls can't be contained to just one platform. They've also messed with the show's rating on Metacritic. Notice how this person, this writer, if you can call them that, just asserts that no matter what, the negative scores are simply from trolls and that there is nothing valuable about what anyone on Rotten Tomatoes has to say unless it is glowing praise. That is just a statement of fact to them. They don't even entertain the possibility that maybe, just maybe, there is a significant portion of people who hate this shit. But my schadenfreude is really enjoying watching all of this play out. In any event, I'm going to leave it there. Drop your mockery of Naughty Dog and The Last of Us Season 2 into the comment section below, and we will talk there. Thanks for watching, me hearties. If you haven't already, your Admiral is inviting you to subscribe to the channel and become a part of the crew. Life as a space pirate may not be glamorous, but there's always plenty of booty.